And another aspect to look at it is, when we produce crude and we sell, let's say the price is high, we'll sell one product and we'll buy 5 products back. You sell one product and collect in foreign earnings, and you buy 5 products in foreign earnings. So what does that tell you what you're doing? So, and the byproduct of one crude is more than 15, which you could sell all the byproducts. So why? So the best, one of the...
Which we could develop.
Yes, one of the key things that can presidency take an energy policy statement that this is 2016, by 2018, we want to stop exporting any of our crude. All of our crude must be refined and produced in Nigeria.
Before then,
if that policy statement takes, it will absorb our earnings.
Shed some light on, before we go further on this one, what kind of challenges inhibited us from doing this all this while?
Those have been around the policy end. We'll be able to say that. There are fundamentals in my research institute, Emirate Energy Institute. We've had talks on this, and we've had a kind of conducted studies on few people that were licensed to build refineries. I really sorry to make this statement. Some state governors have been threatened by investors that want to do refineries. They feel if, what state are you from, Chamberlain? If Chamberlain from, let's say Chamberlain is from Lagos State and Chamberlain happens to do a refinery in Lagos State, that Chamberlain can determine what happens in Lagos State. So that threat has been on them. So we have to give that political comfort and political balance for them. And one other important thing is, when you're doing a refinery, the refinery models development always have 3 points that is very critical. You have to hedge the supply, which is the feedstock, guaranteed, and you have to have an off-takers agreement before you can fund the project. But today, most people that want to do refineries are just in between there. You may not have the feedstock guarantees, and you may not have an off-takers agreement. If this kind of situation were not solved in power, people coming in to do generation plants wouldn't have. But we've been able to kind of put an end to that in power, where the government have established a bulk trader who is naturally now as the off-taker. And now people can go into power to build power plant, not just because the bulk taker exists, but because the bulk taker has a World Bank guarantee against our national reserve. So if you produce, you must take it. If you don't take it, you must pay for it. It's always a contract of take or pay.
Does that then mean that the modular refineries have no bearing, no importance whatsoever in all of these metrics? No.
The modular refinery is it's more like a shock absorber when you have a crisis, the way we see Nigeria today. You're trying to just bridge in a gap. It's like in the side of electricity, it's just like equivalent to what you call embedded generations. Lagos has 10 megawatt power plants here. But does that mean it to serve the entire Lagos? The answer is no. But it's just meant to, okay, serve a particular place, provide a particular shock absorbing mechanism for it to work. You put a modular refinery of 5,000, 10,000, maximum 50. And that will help. It depends on the speed. Why people preach for modular refinery is because they're quick to operations. That's just the basic reason. Because
sorry, Mark, but you know what? I want to take you back, and okay. It has to do with trying to see why we're in this mess and why we haven't been able to get ourselves out of where we are now. Looking at gas production, which you highlighted earlier on, it would mean that we have it in abundance. We haven't even scratched the surface to the extent that the production that we get, which is more or less secondary, is taken out of the country because maybe we have better buyers who will pay for it. I want us to tie it to the power sector, and which some of the discos have complained, and we're talking about transmission now. How is it that we have that amount of gas and we still have power situation that we're trying to sort out when we know we have gas in abundance in our country, we have that X amount of gas to take out? Why is it so difficult for us to create a market whereby we can get more of this to solve what we're going through at this moment?
Okay. There are different aspects to it. Gas production is not like crude production. You can do crude productions, and after your explorations, appraisals, and you start productions and you produce it, you have a tank where you can store it. You don't do that in gas. Before you start production in gas, there must be somebody that signs to buy it. So you don't even store that. So that's why it looks like we are exporting most of our gas out, because the gas wells that are producing today, before they started the production, maybe 10 years back, 15 years back, there was an agreement that tied it where it will go to, and which led to a various chains of trains was signed up. LNG train 1, train 2, train 3, train 4. We're now in train 7, and that trains keep running. So, so
it's as if it's running away from us. Running away from us.
Yes. So, if to solve that problem, the previous government and the government before that tried to address it, and which leads to how do we create the demand in the market so that we can now create the supply, because the demand drives the supply of gas, which differentiated from crude. Now, one of the key steps that was taken was, okay, you know what, let's develop a gas master plan, which will show us clearly where these gases can get to, how it can get to Maiduguri, Sokoto, Borno, and everywhere, as fast. And we said, okay, let's come up with the first phase. This was done and designed. Now we have a gas master plan. Gas master plans has been in place for 7 years now. That project was concluded and said, we'll have a gas master plan. And it has first leg and 2 legs of it. Now, what has been done with it? Roadshow has been done to London, New York, South Africa, Dubai, and all that. But what have we been able to do about it? The perception that government then had was, oh, we'll build a gas infrastructure. Oh, come on. But with the dwindling economy, shift that. Just push it away.
What did they
Even
say
when the
about
economy was buoyant, you don't need to. You don't need to. The gas economics is very clear. If let me give you an instance. We have 10 different pipes of gas that we want to run the countries, and we run those pipes to the various locations where we want them to be. And we decide somebody will have the design of this, and we bring 10 private investors to do these constructions and develop it. Now, this gas will be transported, it will be metered and built. So it's a venture of its own. All over the world, there are people that are core investors in gas infrastructure transportation.
So where did we factor in pricing?
When you say pricing?
They talk about appropriate pricing all the time. So in that master plan, what did they say about pricing?
No, the pricing was equally captured, because there we had, what the government did then was to create some vehicles that were helping it. We have the gas aggregator, who has the responsibility for going all the fields that will produce gas and taking them into the pipe. The aggregation is done. And for that services, there's a pricing. And we have gas transporter. So you now see somebody has these definitions of business has been defined, and somebody takes it. And the gas price, if anybody thinks you're going to buy gas cheaper than what the world buys it for your own country, is another subsidy you're calling for, because somebody must pay for it. Because the moment it moves into the private hand to do it, it must be at the real price. And that is the truth of the matter.
Which is part of the arguments that we've been having locally, because we've been told that, you know, gas producers would rather produce for the international market, because government, it would seem, is also fixing gas prices locally. Do you think that model is sustainable?
That's why I just said fixing the gas price locally is creating another subsidy. And we're trying to walk away from subsidy. We are moving from PMS and coal subsidy, we're an electricity subsidy. Now, if you include gas subsidy, I don't know where that will take us. So if you ask me as an expert, I'll tell you clearly, there's no sentiment about these business models. There's no sentiment about it.
Some people say there's nothing wrong with subsidies. The question is how you put it. You're obviously not an advocate for subsidy.
Okay. You see, let me say why I don't, most times I don't speak for subsidy. Because when you call for subsidy, you end up subsidizing for the wrong reason. You understand? you don't subsidize okay, if you put the full value chains, you either subsidize from the end user's point and not from the production chain.
Which is
Very
how
clear.
you
Let me give you a typical example. It is easier for me to say I subsidize transportation, and I know those that benefited. I subsidize mass transportation, and you know those that use mass transportation. If you decide to ride on your car, you're not part of those. So the actual benefit goes to the end users. But when you decide to subsidize from the production chain, you subsidize for the masses, and which is not really. And a man that decides to own 10 cars and fuel his car, you subsidize for him, there's something wrong. It's not that subsidies, I kick against it, but the right subsidy mechanism where you deploy it. I just gave you this instance.
So what will the right subsidy be for gas in this circumstance? How will it be applied if you were to advocate for it or suggest?
Okay, now the subsidy you can give goes to the industries and the products, what they produce, and not in this chain, and that's what I was trying to explain. I'll give you a typical example. The textile industry, they are good consumers of gas if you allow them to operate normally. And if you decide to subsidize gas in that value chain, you won't be helping them. But if you decide to subsidize whatever they produce and in line of that, then you're not talking on who consumes those things and who can benefit from that. Because it could lead to so many things. It could lead to so many things. I don't know if we have the time for me to go deeper enough.
We will, but that will be when we return in a moment.